So going from 7 up to 1. So it's not, so the next one is priority 6, student engagement, family engagement. In a non-pandemic year, school districts use the California Healthy Kids Survey. We did use the California Healthy Kids Survey with limited participation because it was done in the fall, but it gives us some sort of place to start. The California Healthy Kids Survey goes out to students, families, and staff. This priority looks at the level of school engagement. And so as you can see, we have a sampling of grades, and we're required to do an elementary grade, a high school grade, and then a middle school grade. So students, in terms of, definitely a majority of students responded positively to statements like that there are caring adults in school, that adults have high expectations for students, their academic motivation. So where there's a dash that just simply means that there was not enough data collected, or it may have been one of those questions that the survey said we can't issue this question because we're in a pandemic. So like the school safety, they just didn't put that into the survey because we're not on campus at the time that we looked at school safety. There's varying levels of agreement with the communication. Teachers at this school communicate with parents about what students are expected to learn in class. 6% strongly agree, 65% agree. And then there are 30% that are disagree or strongly disagree. And it measures about how welcome parents are at school, how parents are treated with respect, and how school staff take parent concerns seriously. So in all of those areas, there are more respondents that agree or strongly disagree, or strongly agree that the schools are welcoming staff treat parents respectfully. And then the last part of this engagement has to do with things being a supportive environment for teachers. So the vast majority agree or strongly agree that it's a supportive and inviting positive place for staff to work, and a supportive and inviting place for students to learn. So that's priority 6. So in the upper left-hand corner is where I have the priority. I want priority 3. Dana should have just handed to you. I got it. It's 1, 2, 3, 6, and 7. I mean, they just couldn't make it easy and go, we need you to do 1 through 5. So I don't have priority 3, but I know the priority 3 has to do with school climate. So the school climate measurements, again, go to you have priority 3, it's engagement. Sorry, it's priority 3 engagement. So it's talking about welcomeness at the school for priority 3, parental involvement. Sorry, it's engagement's one of the measures, parental involvement. And then the middle graph says, parents basically self-certified or they responded if they participate in any of these organizations for school. So parent-teacher organization, 24% said yes, they participate, 76% said no, they do not. Fundraising, 6% said yes, they do, 94% said no, they do not. Serve on a school committee, 15% said yes, they do, 85% said no, they do not. If you look up above that with parental involvement, parents feel welcome to participate. There was 71% said that yes, they do feel welcome, or they agree or strongly agree. The same number said that they are encouraged to be an active partner with their child, with school and education. And I think that is 44% that they agree that the school actively seeks the input of parents before making important decisions, but there were more respondents that said that they disagree that the school actively seeks the input of parents before making important decisions, and 12% that didn't respond but didn't answer. So in the last part of the parental involvement survey, or that indicator, parents feel this is was the respondents for this part were staff members. So staff reported parents feel welcome to participate at this school. 66% strongly agree or agree. This school encourages parents to be active partners in educating their child. 73% strongly agree or agree. And this school is welcoming to and facilitates parental involvement. That looks like 81% agree or strongly agree. So I mean, this is the data. And of course, it gives us a baseline to move forward from that. I am going to go on to priority 2, which is conditions of learning. It's about the implementation of the state academic standards. I could do like a classroom thing and say, put your hand on your head when you have priority 2 in front of you, because I can't see what you have. Do all that, because I do have an extra copy. Do you need that? Okay, so priority 2, what that again is one of the things the state can't really give us an analysis of that. That's something we do ourselves. So we distributed a survey to the teachers. We had 56 respondents. The principals were really good about getting, going back and saying, hey, you guys, let's get this, because this is the area of expertise that really only our teaching staff can answer. So even though we have more members in the certificated unit, we have just classroom teachers answer this. So what they did was they evaluated our district on these areas of implementation of state standards. They rated the availability of professional learning, and then for each of the subject areas. Overall, and then there's the rating scale. 1 is, we're just getting started, exploration. 2 is we're beginning to develop. 3, initial implementation. 4, full implementation. And 5, full implementation and sustainability. So the professional learning was rated by the teachers themselves as a 2.6, which puts us somewhere in between beginning development and initial implementation of availability of professional learning. The rate of availability of aligned instructional materials for the content areas, English language arts, English language development, math, next generation science standards, history, social science. And so the combined average for that, for the availability of instructional materials, was 2.7, which again is between beginning development towards initial implementation. The third area that teachers were asked to rate is the policies to support staff in identifying personal goals. It was a 2.7, which places us between beginning development towards initial implementation of having policies to support staff in identifying their personal goals. Implementation of other standards, so career technical education, health, physical education, visual and performing arts, language. The overall rating for the other standards is 2.5. Placing us between beginning development and initial implementation. I just wanted you to note that that's the lowest number so far. So the teachers are saying we're kind of less advanced in the implementation of these other standards than the core standards. And support for teachers and administrators is a 3.1. Identifying group needs, identifying individual needs, and providing support. So 3.1 places us at initial implementation. Teacher ratings. Any questions about that?
So does this mean that we should focus professional development on any of these areas?
And you know, it's interesting that for the other standards or for the,
Well, for anything here where we're just beginning development.
yeah, which is.
So 5 is
like
the
that.
best, 5 would be the best, the highest score they could get.
Yes.
So they're all like in the middle, it seems like. maybe
Yes,
with
they're all
3 or
kind of in that, they're, you know, close to 3. If you rounded it up, it would be a 3. You know, it's interesting to see that there's, you know, professional learning for English language arts, which makes sense, or maybe that's in anticipation of the, you know, what we have coming up, but there's not as much for science. So that's what the NGSS is, the next generation of science standards. So it does give us a guide in terms of professional development. And in the LCAP, we put professional learning opportunities in every goal. So we have it in academics, we have it in our school climate and behavioral and social emotional supports, and we have professional development as an aspect that's really important in moving systems implementation and alignment forward. So say yes.
This is all implementation of state academic standards. And we've had these standards for a number of years now. So are they telling us that they're not implementing it? If we're only on beginning development and initial implementation, does that mean that the teachers are saying that they haven't fully implemented all of the standards?
I would say that overall, with all of the parts between getting supported with PD and actually having the materials, I would say that, yeah, they're saying, yeah, we are not fully implementing the standards. And I think that's, so again, it's really good information. This is something, this survey is something that's been a requirement for a couple of years. So I expected everybody to have seen this before.
Yeah. So then this concerns me. If we're testing our students on the standards and our teachers are saying that they're between beginning development and initial implementation after how many years, that's concerning to me. And look at our student scores that on the state standards. So our kids there's some of this there.
There's another thought of this, but where we say that each student has 100% of the materials. So if they have 100% of the materials, then we should be really close to.
But implementation is, they're not saying they haven't implemented it.
So I would also say when you look at the materials that we have officially adopted, let's go pre whatever month it was that we adopted Success for All. Okay. You look at the years that those materials were published. Our teachers are saying we do not have really good instructional materials as well. So that I think
Not that
was,
we don't have it, it's that we don't have good.
we have the quantity.
Yeah.
And so I think that they're saying, hey, let's just start doing a little more quality control. And I think we made a first step. We're doing an ELA adopt. That's huge. And I think what this does is this informs us to say, oh, we want to make sure that we are providing those unique opportunities that are aligned with academic standards. So I think it helps give us direction in terms of when we're identifying what are really the priorities for professional development. This, you know, you guys can give me direction that we want to really focus on academic standards or other, you know, there's lots of pieces to school. So if that is a concern, then we can continue to make sure that we're making PD readily available, high quality, that's really focusing on academic standards is one of our priorities. But again, and then we have this other part, which is the availability of standards aligned materials. So it's not, I think it's a great starting place.
Okay. Oh yeah, it's not zero.
It's not zero.
Priority 1.
Okay, so priority 1 is the conditions of learning, and it has a number of parts to it. So that you'll see, I'm gonna just wait, you have a couple of pages here. One of them says facilities inspection tool ratings. One of them says priority 1, rate of teacher misassignment. That's in your packet. That's, no, it was what I randomly handed out afterwards. What was in mine was priority 7, is the one I got printed. So let's go ahead and look at the priority 1. The first thing is the rate of teacher misassignment. So we have the authority to employ teachers in classroom positions by giving local assignment options if they have a credential that is for a different course than what they're teaching. We also have the authority to petition to the state and say, hey, we want to do what's used to be called an emergency credential. I don't use that language anymore, but somebody who could do the job but doesn't have the credential from the state. So we work with the county and making sure that they've got the prerequisite materials and that they have a year in which they can work and be working towards getting their credentials. So you'll see that overall of at the time that we did this snapshot, the 69.15 teachers, there were 56 that had full credential and some that were either misassigned or were working on their credential while they're teaching. Okay. The states really, we have to monitor this. We have to really look at how we are assigning teachers. So teachers in K-8 typically have multiple subject credentials. They are credentialed to have a self-contained class, teach math, English language arts, music, art, PE. And then when we get to the high school, it's a little trickier because they're single subject. Oh, and then there's the junior high. We'll have people that have single subject and multiple subject. So junior high kind of has a little more flexibility, but this teaching outside of the subject area are local assignments that the board has approved. So I might be a social studies credentialed teacher, but I've been assigned to a math position. Basically, it's a waiver that the board approves. So again, this is just for your information because the state doesn't, they have ways of monitoring it, but they don't do this kind of compilation. So I'll upload this information to the dashboard.
How many of these were teaching while they were in a credential program?
I think that that's going to be the 6 that are interns. So without a whole credential, without a whole, we have the 6 across the. So actually, I think fewer than that because I think that there are 2 that are called there's STIPs. They make all sorts. There's the staff permit, so that's somebody that is before they get into the intern program. So I think there's 3 or 4 that were without the full credential and doing the intern program. It's really good that the CT, the Commission on Teacher Credentialing, does give us some options. I think schools across the state would be a little hurt if they had everybody had to have the preliminary credential. So they, they do what they call basically alternate routes. So,
well, what I'm also hearing or reading is that there's a lot of retirements this past year due to COVID, and that we know that there has been a shortage of teachers. So I expect there to be a lot of this amongst all schools across the state. And I think one of the trailer bills, I believe, was beefing up opportunities for people to get their credentials and financing them.
yeah, there's some local grants.
Yes.
And then Humboldt State changed its offering a credentialing model. Forever it's been you go to school, get your bachelor's degree, and then do a 5th year. So they're offering a 4-year program where you can enter into the teaching credential program and in 4 years get a bachelor's and a teaching credential. And it's much more hands-on. So they get students who are earning a bachelor's degree into classrooms much earlier, so that throughout their 4 years, they are,
The old-
practitioners.
The old ITEP model.
Yes, yeah, instead of just an add, I'm not saying the 5th year is unimportant, but it's like they're focused on elementary
What they
education.
did was all the BA work during the academic year, plus you were placed in a classroom every semester. And then during the summer, you did your credential courses. So that's good. Okay.
Okay, so any other questions about the teacher assignments? And then so the priority 1, conditions of learning facilities inspection tool. It's something,
Wow, that's terrible.
well, overall, the facilities are good.
Yeah.
Well, what is the highest rating? Good?
The highest rating is good, meaning there are
I
not.
was gonna say, with all our new buildings, we should have good on everything.
Yeah,
Can I
so,
ask, what is interior?
so that could be, so I point out things here. So we would have gotten deficiencies for this room because the interior has, there's the watermarks and things like that. Sometimes the interior is actually temporary things, like if there's a lot of clutter that looks like it would be hard to clean. So the interior, as you can see, is kind of limited. It's talked across the board.
I was thinking we'd get all kinds of work.
So overall, it's still good, but and so it's really specific, something that the MTO does 2 times a year. So, the kind of best practices for that.
I need clarification. Is KTJUSD the district overall, like an average? Or is it this building?
That's this building.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the last part of priority 1, which is still conditions of learning, it says student access to standards aligned instructional materials. Not all the math, science, history, social science. So this is already kind of outdated. So as Martha pointed out, each student has access to their own copy. So our next thing is to, that will change in the English language arts. We'll be listing different materials when we do our sufficiency of instructional materials. So that'll be great to have something that's new. I didn't put the dates on here, I noticed, but I don't think anything was newer than, yeah, 2011, with the exception of some of the math coursework was because I was, more recently math adoption. So the idea of students having their own copy is that they should be not just have access to the materials in school. We were to decide to send things home, that we have enough for every individual student. So English language arts is, that we have the Common Core State Standards. English language development are materials that are available for students whose first language is a language other than English. So what I will do is take all of this information and I'm going to upload it in July. The California Schools Dashboard opens. That's where our test scores are reported, our absenteeism rate, our attendance rates, suspension rates. And so I'll once that's all uploaded, I'll bring that as a board presentation so that you all can look more into the school. I apologize for this being completely discombobulated. I thought it was going to all be in your packet.
Okay, so
Thank you.
any questions or any other comments on the local indicators? Okay, let's move on to the action items. Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP, for 2021 to 2024. The recommendation is to approve the Local Control and Accountability Plan, LCAP. Did we have any public comment on any of these action items today? I will entertain a motion to approve the local control and accountability plan. Motion to approve. Debbie moves. Is there a second?
Second.
Martha second. Discussion. At our public hearing last time, we discussed a lot of things. Is there anything in addition for tonight? If not, is Rob lost?
Rico, is Rob Wild on?
He still is not joined back.
Okay, thank you.
Let's do roll call. Aye. 4-0. That is a quorum, so the motion is approved. Item 8B, 2021-22 budget adoption. Recommendation is to approve the budget. Again, we did have our public hearing last night and questions, etc. Is there any other discussion this evening? Leonard?
No public comments on this.
She said no. I will entertain a motion to approve the budget adoption. Martha moves.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Deb seconds. All in favors? Roll call vote.
Roll call, trustee Hope, trustee George,
Yes.
trustee Myers,
Yay.
and trustee Swanson.
4-0. Motion, the budget adoption is approved. Resolution 2021-11, education protection account, EPA, recommendation to approve resolution 2021-11, education protection account projections. Entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the education protection.
Yeah, Liz, is there a second?
One second.
Martha seconds. Discussion? Again, this was in the public hearing last night. We had discussion. Any additional comments? Roll call vote.
Trustee George,
Yes.
trustee Hope, trustee Myers, trustee McLaughlin. Aye. 4. Aye.
Motion is approved. Action item 8D, consideration of the establishment of a music teacher position. I will entertain a motion.
I don't know what that one, did we talk about that one?
Establishment, no, this is a new, but we have the motion that we discussed and then. we vote.
Okay.
I motion.
Martha moves. Is there a second? Oh, you seconded. Okay. Okay, discussion. As to the establishment of a music teacher position. In the past, the district has had 2 full-time music teachers. We had Brian Newkirk, who did the elementary schools, river schools. We also had Dennis Doran at the high school. And I think, did he go to L too? I believe. And then, so anyway, we have in the past had 2 music teachers. For the last few years, since Dennis retired, Newkirk retired before that, 2008, I believe. Our music program has been piecemeal. We've And what have we had?
So there's a part-time teacher at the river schools, and there's a part-time teacher at the high school.
So the river schools, is that all three
I
or
think they go up top.
No, I don't know. I know they go to Orleans and she used to go to the check.
She does.
Does she
She-
go to the
yeah,
check?
she does.
Oh, okay.
So Cuba Elementary has this committee, Trinity Valley doesn't have any.
And we've had, oh, go ahead.
Well, so they may, through their multiple subjects teachers, so through their classroom teachers, but in terms of an additional and supplemental music, no. I don't know if they're, the schools may do some sort of contracts and have something, but there is not a music credential teacher with a music teaching credential. Trinity Valley. So again, multiple subjects teachers can offer all of them. Get trained to be able to deliver all of that curriculum.
So we don't have like third graders doing the record, I think they did guitars, right? That he was doing guitars with third graders. He did another instrument. We don't have that.
Only if their classroom teachers are doing it. It's not a separate course.
And one of the things I understand now is that teacher credentialing programs are not requiring teachers to have the music instruction like they used to. In order to get a credential, you had to be able to at least play a song on the piano and sing, even if it was out of tune. But
In 2008, I didn't have to do 10 years ago.
so, yeah, so what, I have been an advocate, I have been, for as long as I've been on the board, been saying we need music, we need music. We have a lot of students who are very interested in music but don't have the opportunity. We do have a lot of our high rate of socioeconomic need here, 85%. And parents don't have the transportation or the funding to go hire a for music instruction on their own if they can find someone. And so I have been an advocate for music. It has a lot of healing for trauma. Music does a lot of soothing. Anyway.
I think there's research showing correlation between music and academics too. That higher scoring students are often also musical. And the two things kind of go hand in
Music
hand.
tends to, what does it, have your brain synapses make more connections or something. And so anyway,
So we're considering hiring a full-time music teacher then, is that what's on that?
that's what it is, yes.
That would take away from the
Yeah.
part-time high school and the part-time, what you're not asking that we hire somebody in place of that, you're asking that those programs are still going to supplement this, correct? Because one person is not enough for
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
And
6.
so I think that the music, if we could replicate what we have or duplicate or clone, then we'd be good, but there's all, the FTE that is assigned to teaching music across the district for 1,000 students is,
And
Probably not.
hopefully we can find someone with a music credential who will join us.
We interviewed a guy the other day for a principal position, and that was his key thing, was a music teacher. And it looked good on paper, but I couldn't stand his answers for stuff, so. I don't know.
so, so we're talking about a
We're-
position. If we want to
We're
create a
talking about
position.
position, not person.
Right, okay, sorry.
Well, was it?
Well,
So, okay, so the person that's at Orleans with Dr. Jack Norton is not full-time. Is that position
Correct.
full-time? It's 0.5?
I'm not sure.
But we're not taking away, I
No,
just
no,
want to
no,
be
no,
sure, we're not taking away from what we have, we're adding to,
We're
right?
adding we're adding one full-time music teacher.
the establishment of a music teacher position.
Okay,
maybe new, could have been.
A new,
or-
yeah.
or
Let's put a new.
Additional.
Additional.
Right.
And I think that, Morley also brought up a good point. Staffing is going, for specialized areas, but I think we have to start by saying this is a value that the district holds. We want to be able to offer this to students.
It's really,
We just simply cannot stretch enough hours out of two people.
And we
that are
did
teaching.
have, we did put music in the LCAP. So I assume that was budgeted then for a music teacher,
We have,
if it's in the LCAP.
what's in the LCAP are the existing music teachers because they're considered supplemental. And because of the things that you've described in terms of, expecting families to go and find music teachers or drive them to the Humboldt State Academy. So this idea, the budget, we started talking about this long after we'd already done budget development. So if the board directs me to, open a position, I can do it in, I can stop, I can say, okay, now we're gonna go and figure out what, which account it would come from. Something else will have to go. So could be that we slim down, or we'll have to make some decisions in terms of, do we have an overage of materials and supplies? It does fit into LCFF with supplemental concentration. It's another one that I don't know if it comes into any of the descriptors for any of the COVID funding. I don't think it does.
Can I ask where a teacher with that kind of specialization falls on wage? Wage that we have?
It would be on just a salary placement depending on their, the number of years that they can bring in. So if they've been teaching for 5 years, we can credit them and place them on step 6. And then depending on their,
We don't have a separate pay scale for specializations.
only for positions that have increased hours. So the rate's the same, it's just, people who are working more.
So you had said previously that we were looking for, or asked if we were looking for somebody with a music credential. So is that different than a teaching credential?
It's
It's a
is-
single
yeah.
subject teacher.
Yeah.
Okay, that
So,
makes
yeah.
sense. Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion, comments? Ready for a vote?
I make a motion.
I think we did.
Are we there? Or we have
You
to just
did.
do it? You did already?
Martha did, and it was just second.
so I guess I have one final question. So, I mean, this didn't come out of the blue, so evidently we have the money to do this.
What she said is we would have to pull from another area.
Okay.
But if the supplemental concentration funding would fit. And what I think from the budget, I'm seeing from the state is that they are increasing that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so that question, I remember asking that question, like, can we afford that? And the answer to me was, we can afford anything, we can't afford everything. And I know that comes back again, and it's really helpful. We may find that there's a position that we have budgeted that we have a vacancy for because of some, so we'll have to go and say, we intend to do this, and then we'll look at what happens. We did not explicitly put this in the budget. We did not explicitly put this additional position in the LCAP.
Which we couldn't.
Because we don't-
had-
Well, it's just because of the timing of things. I mean, budget development started months ago, and so.
Okay.
I can come back to you all if it's really troublesome.
And just hopefully there is a credential out there that would want to come here. I look at our students and I've got the little kids singing and yet they get to school and there's nothing. And I know, probably heard me say this before, but it was music and sports that kept my husband in school for years. And it was what really motivated him to stay in school.
Well, we've had a pretty strong music program at Orleans for quite a while, because we've had, and it really is this an amazing opportunity for kids. They learn band instruments, guitars, flutes, just. It really has been amazing.
And then,
And I might as well have that one.
Right, yeah.
and then at the high school, we've got maybe one or teachers doing a part-time, a math teacher is doing part-time music
Yeah,
and doing a good job, but we need more. We need
well, it'd be
more.
nice to have it at the elementary level so that they have something. to make it happen.
I don't know how many sections he teaches, but he definitely was thanked and appreciated by students who are graduating.
Yes,
And I don't, maybe it's because he's a great math teacher, which I'm sure he is, but
Yeah.
my suspicion was they were thankful that they got to participate.
and we have at the high school, the band room has been, and was awarded a grant from CoCentral and also a grant from the George Memorial Music Fund from Humboldt Area Foundation that put a lot of equipment and recording equipment in the band room. And so the kids can record. They have been composing their own songs, some of them, and have the opportunity to record it. Those that are in the choir or vocal, they have the opportunity of recording themselves also, which has been what I understand is students really enjoy that part.
Yeah.
Okay, are we ready? Roll call vote?
Trustee George,
Yes.
trustee Colville, trustee Myers, trustee Hoffman.
Motion passes. Okay, discussion item, updated board trustees calendar for 2021.
Not in this, but including the special meeting.
It does not include special. So
You're under
Special
special meeting for July 15th, and for that one, it is for to elect your provisional candidate. Or select.
So that closes tomorrow, huh, that deadline?
And Carrie and Martha are
The 6th, right?
So after that, nobody can, because I reached out to a lady in Willow Creek and she said she personally can't do it, but she might know somebody. And I thought that I had saw on here that it was gonna be open till July 6th, but now I see it's only
No.
open till tomorrow.
So if we have one applicant, do we need to have this meeting?
What we have done in the past is if you have one applicant, for example, when Lois was filling a position on the board, she showed up at the meeting and they said, introduced her and says, please take a seat. She was the only applicant and she was ready to go through an interview process and whatnot. She was seated without,
I think I was. I didn't ever have to.
and then I remember one time we had 3 candidates for one of the trustee positions. So what we did at that meeting was we had interviews, and it has to be in public. And so we had the room full of people, and we had brought one candidate in at a time, asked them questions, and the public could hear the answers and the questions. And then we'd have the next one coming in, and after the 3 had done their interviews, then the board moved and selected a candidate. And it has to be done in open session.
We did have an inquiry today about looking at a possible candidate. By tomorrow.
Okay, so there's a possibility of 2. So that particular meeting, I don't know if that's going to be the only agenda item I could say it is.
So are we going to welcome the public to that meeting?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's
Is that,
COVID yet.
yeah, are we still,
Well, the state, I mean, we could have people attend in person. When the board is ready to do that, we can do that. We will have to do that before September. So we had talked about in August, starting with in-person meetings, but we'll continue to broadcast out. So it would still be in public, it would still meet this, but. So as soon as the board is ready to have folks in public, we can make sure that we say, okay, anybody who's attending in the public.
It will be broadcast, so anyone can hear the questions and answers.
And I have another question. I think July 15th is, I'm sorry, July 25th is what Lucinda sent us as the date by which we have to have the candidates selected, or do they have to be
they
seated by
have to
then?
be seated by.
Okay. So will they be seated?
July?
Yes.
So we do need to select by the 15th. At
So-
that meeting, we will select.
Select and then.
So
and
we
then do it.
possibly have, we have one
One for sure.
One for sure, possibility of two, maybe a third if. Okay.
It look like we'll have a form for the July 15th, because it's not set in stone, because it's a special meeting, if you need to. You can make your.
Any other discussion?
I just had a question if the board wanted to make a decision about when to have the, in-person meetings, or if we just want to kind of see where the Cal, the Beyond Blueprint goes. Like, we're back in the
Now, the August 10th meeting, that's mainly, one of the items is your evaluation.
That's a regular meeting, so it could either be set up as part of the regular meeting, or you can do a special meeting for that.
And one of the things was I was talking with Jen about that evaluation that I wanted to still have Fred facilitate like he did the last time. I wanted to know the rest of the board's thoughts on that.
Yeah.
I thought it was an excellent, smooth way of doing the evaluation.
So we can reach out to him and see if he's available that date, and if he's not, then we would have to schedule.
Okay. And he can send out the electronically the rating forms and stuff ahead of time, and have them before that date, and have them you do get all the consensus together on it. Okay, so when does the board, the August meeting, but by September, we definitely will not have our Zoom meetings anymore and open to the public. Now, I'm still wondering about protocols from the tribe or and CDC in the state, if we're going to have to still do the distancing, masking, those things, which this room is awfully small.
So the tribe is, I met with Abe and Greg and Amos. They're not, as of now, we still get the masking order in place. So we would continue with that. For K-12 schools, the orders are masks are required indoors for people working with children, not for offices, but because children are an unvaccinated population. And CDPH is saying, of course, to the extent possible, try to do the physically distancing chairs 3 feet apart from one another is a recommendation, it's not a requirement. So we would fall more under like Cal OSHA requirements, because we wouldn't be having children here, but I would say we would follow the masking requirements for the public and placing chairs at least 3 feet apart, unless
Yeah,
it's
it
for
seems really
families.
tight quarters in here. We're having people, other people, public come in. I had a question about, is it possible for us to do board meetings at the cafeteria at the high school? And because it's bigger and I don't know, maybe the acoustics are worse over there where you would have a hard time hearing, but with these things gone, it might be easier and be able to distance people further apart and maybe be able to hear better with using microphones and not have to. It's kind of hard when that fan is on the air conditioner. And so I was just thinking, can we meet over there starting September? The cafeteria and then open up to the public.
Or the gymnasium.
What was that?
Or the gymnasium, the larger space.
Actually, because then if we use the bleachers for the audience, they can socially distance very easily.
One could have a
I think the
microphone.
cafeteria is set up, and I think since they renovated it, the acoustics is better. I agree.
That'd be
A lot better.
I think the cafeteria. Would be welcome.
So maybe look at, this is a thought, maybe with the September meeting, we start at the cafeteria. And that's when we open it up to the public.
And can we have microphones?
Yeah, and then have microphones. Didn't you guys always have
Yeah,
microphones?
we have-
over
I mean, darn,
the
right?
speakers?
We're gonna have to look at a different system. That system is heavy to have.
Maybe Peter could set us up with some.
That could be.
We could have microphones and some speakers that are on rollers or,
Yeah.
something to make it easier. for
Well, that would
Not
be
the
easy.
microphones, that they'd have to be plugged into something.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obsolete if you remember what it looked like before. The plugins are about as big as a pin, and so I think there's other things out there that we could probably look at and use our one-time money for that purchase, just for the distancing and things. I think we could justify something like that. We can look at that.
So in that case, would you be interested in continuing to have the meeting also broadcast out for people that don't want to attend in person, but still, of course, want to know what's going on? So that would be another
I-
layer of just setup.
I like that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's important to give everybody, transparency is really important. And I think that it's important that we give everybody the opportunity to hear what's happening.
Because there really still are people, that are really uncomfortable with in person.
Sure.
So,
I've also had people say that they've been watching it.
I know, me too.
They said, and it wasn't even live. I mean, they go later.
Yeah,
And said, oh, we saw you roll your eyes. I go, "Ooh, okay."
Well, and I like this circle like this, instead of everybody sitting straight up front. Like this is easier, I think, to see each other and we're talking and you can see when you're sitting in the straight row, it's hard to see your other board members, I think, so just a suggestion.
yeah.
I think at that time too, we're gonna have most of our board members in attendance, and so we are gonna need a bigger space.
We wouldn't have the Zoom anymore. That was the requirement.
Right, we won't be able
Well,
to.
that's what I'm saying, is everybody will be in
Yeah.
attendance, but you also want her to be accessible to us, and she's gonna need to have space, so I think we need a bigger space than this.
It could be spread out there. It's huge.
And the cafeteria.
Yeah, I just think that's a good idea.
And then with the tables already in the cafeteria, the
Yeah.
spacing with pods could help.
Yeah.
And it's comfortable.
Yeah.
So why do we meet at a school site once in this schedule?
It has been the practice of the school board for years to get the board out so that they could see the different school sites. Number one, these different school sites have hosted, they've had students do presentations and show us what's happening at their schools. So it's been, otherwise it's hard to get to all the sites on your own. I mean, it gets us there for sure.
You know, and it gets community members into this, a lot of times they'll come into the site just to see what it looks like, you know, to see what the board looks like. Their opportunity to address us without having to drive everything off, which they don't doesn't seem like it. I mean, something.
Yeah, Hoopa tends to be the largest and gets the most activity. And so it's our attempt to get out to the other communities. Okay, anything else, information? Thank you for the calendar. I really needed it.
That is great.
I need something on
I'm
the
gonna
refrigerator.
laminate mine or something. It's sticking out my fridge.
I'll believe it when it happens.
Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I make the motion. to
And I
adjourn.
second it. Or Martha. I seconds that first. We just have a fight over here. Who's gonna do it?
So who won the arm wrestling?
Martha.
Okay. Okay, Jen, you won. Okay, roll call.
Roll call.
I
Trustee Myers,
E.
trustee George,
Yes.
trustee Colville.
Yeah.
4-0.
Motion passes. The meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, Rico.
Thank you, Rico.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, I'm gonna end it now. Thank you, guys.